Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the new Scooby Doo reviews. I am JB, and joining me is Millie.
Hi.
We have Dan.
Hi.
And this episode, we are going to be doing a retrospective on Scooby Doo Legend of the Vampire, which is one that we covered way, way, way back when we first did this. So I'm going to be curious to see if I've changed my mind on it now. I'm looking forward to hearing both of your opinions on it. So, as with these other reviews, I'm going to keep stating this until it gets like completely obvious, or if I forget and then I just won't bother. But unlike the seasonal reviews, this one won't include an interview announcement at the end, but we are approaching interview number 125, so look out on the channel for content surrounding that. I said this on Twitter, but it isn't really Scooby heavy as such, but it definitely does break some new ground that I'm at least excited to do, for that type of milestone. So that's pretty cool. So, Millie, as our MC, as MC Hammer, do you want to, I guess, not give us a plot summary, but walk us through that plot?
Yeah, so as always, I guess let's just kick off with the cold opening. Did you say that it's Legend of the Vampire, and did I completely miss
Yeah,
that in your introduction? Okay, perfect. So
sure I did, because I'm like a well-oiled machine at this point.
of course.
I'm all lubed up.
So it was my week to choose. I chose Legend of the Vampire. To me,
I didn't say it was your choice.
I just associate this movie with music and the Hex Girls, which to me is two things that can never go far wrong. So I was really looking forward to rewatching this. It's been a very long time. And I'll admit some parts were different to what I thought. So I want to see if, with us, with the audience as well, just if I was the only one that remembered things a certain way. So we start off with the cold opening, which is where the kind of, is it like a festival you want to call it? Music festival?
Oh yeah, like a well, it's just a yeah,
Battle of the
festival.
Bands,
Festival.
something is taking place. I always found it quite funny because the person who's kind of hosting it, their father's listening to the music and pulling a face, and kind of reminds me of like when my dad heard One Direction cover like Sweet Caroline or something. Like he thought that it was absolute criminal, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's brilliant. So I always found that cold opening really funny. And then the villain appears, the Yowie Yahoo, which I didn't try to spell once in these notes. It's just referred to as a monster. But the Yowie Yahoo appears and takes the first band performing on the stage. So I think it sets it up really nicely for a mystery. I love cold openings. I think I always was quite scared. I thought the Yowie Yahoo looked like a really intimidating villain. Watching it back, you can tell this is an older Scooby. I didn't realize how far the animation's come. Not that there's anything wrong with this and it's nostalgic as anything, but I never realized just, I think because last time we reviewed them all, we watched them in order, that you never saw how big the step forward's been. But I wasn't quite as scared as I remember being. JB, what did you think of the cold opening?
So I think I've not got much to add except for maybe talking about the how the vampires aged and stuff like that, because I've always had it in my mind that there are two schools of thought when it comes to vampires. You can either go with the standard Dracula type of look, which is cool, but then you can kind of also go with the dashing, handsome vampire, as was kind of pioneered by, James Masters, Robert Patterson. And I'd kind of always thought that I preferred, at least in like a Scooby, the first type. But the Yo Yahoo, this is the only instance where I can think where we do get a big hulking vampire that is literally like a monster. I think every other media that has a vampire is either option one or option two.
They
So
almost seem a bit
I
more
do
like a
like
bat as
this.
well. You know, the way that their arms
Mhm.
open out like wings? It's kind of like an amalgamation of the two.
I just wish we got this, like this type of vampire, a little bit more in other media as well. I think that'd be interesting. But yeah, I just love the Yo-Yahoo because it's a vampire, but it's so different than all the others. I think it's fantastic.
I also like a little bit on that as well. Like how they've got the three other people. So is it like the ghosts of Wildwind or the
Oh,
vampire-esque Wildwind? I like how you have that because I always think sometimes with these villains, it would be such a high budget. There's no way you can make them do all these things. To have almost like the three minions that run around that are the ones that do the kidnapping and stuff like that almost made a little bit more sense to me than if it was just the Yowie Yahoo's arm wing thing kind of just come down and
well,
scoop
they
them all
scared
up.
me in the rewatch more than the Yo-Yahoo.
Yeah.
It's just their faces. It's almost like an uncanny valley where they're human enough to be distinguishable, but there's also something twisted about them. I don't know. They just always scare me.
Mm. What did you think to the cold opening, Dan?
Yeah, I really liked the cold opening. I thought it really set everything up well. I thought, it was suitably scary. I love the design of the Yowie Yahoo. Like you say, it's not just your typical vampire. It's like really muscly. It's really, like you say, bat-like. It's really intimidating. It's you're not gonna, like you say, like, it became so popular to have like the sexy vampire trope, but this is really like a monstrous one. And I think with Scooby-Doo, obviously being such a long-running franchise, they've done loads of vampires, loads of witches, loads of zombies, loads of ghosts. They constantly have to think of something different. So like it doesn't just look like, the Dracula from Where Are You? It has to look unique. And I really like that. Yeah, in terms of the animation, I remember when this first came out, so this was the last VHS of Scooby-Doo I ever got. Um, and I remember at the time I was very confused because I saw like the cover photo in a magazine, like the cover in a magazine, and I'm thinking, why are they gang in like their old clothes? Like, because obviously we just got off the back of the four ones where they're older. And in terms of the animation, I remember getting quite surprised because when you looked at like the Zombie Island era, it was quite like shaded, quite unique, and this one was very bright, very like I think with what's new, looking back, you sort of think it's a bit flat, like the animation, which sounds weird, but like
Mm.
when you look at the 2010 onwards, it's very, I don't know, it just looks so much better. So yeah, I think this and Monster of Mexico, I don't think the animation's bad, it's really good, but it's just, yeah, it's not as good as it would get or had been. So, but in terms of a cold open for something called Legend of the Vampire, I think it sets it up well. We see the rock show, we see the vampire, and yeah, I really like as well. You mentioned the henchmen, the minions. That's very classic Scooby to me because there was quite a few examples in the old show where there'd be this big, the big bad, but obviously that'd be a bit impractical to do stuff. So they would always have like the little henchmen. Like I think of there was Zen Zen2 or something in the old show. Then you had like those
Oh
creepy
yeah.
masked people who kidnapped the gang. There was the Willower, the big bird, the big owl, but like it was the owl henchmen that were doing most of it. So I like that. And I do think the vampire minion designs were really good. But no, the opening I think still holds up. I think was really good.
That
See,
is a
I
really
was
good point
sorry.
about the animation. No, I don't want to cut
Yeah,
you
see,
off.
it's the
It's just,
animation
yeah.
that I want to jump into because when it first started and we saw the gang, I turned to JB and I was like, isn't it the what's new outfits we're meant to be seeing? I
Yeah.
remember this as what's new. Like, I don't know
Right.
why. It was exactly the same movie ingrained into my head, but Daphne's outfit was different. And like the scene where she's in a bikini on the beach, the colours that they use, the purple and green, it's so distinctly what's new. I'm sure they've used that exact same outfit for her in what's
Yeah.
new. So it was confusing to me that she wasn't wearing the outfit that I thought she was meant to be doing. And I feel like
Yeah.
they changed the colours of Velma towards that what's new era. When Shaggy and Scooby are on the surfboard, Shaggy's pants are of that what's new era with the kind of flowers and stuff on them. It all seemed like it was meant to be what's new except for Daphne's outfit. And it threw me off completely when I first saw her.
Yeah, I think this is my see, I love the design, like the outfits for the gang. I think the decision to turn them back, I think was a good choice for me just because those are my favorite outfits for the gang in terms of animation. But this is definitely my least favorite animation style, like by a long bit. I just don't know. It just seems so uninspired. And by the way, people are kind of on about the new era of Scooby for being nostalgia bait. And I think I said in a Q&A, this is literally Scooby Doo, the nostalgia bait. It's original cast, original
Well, we
outfits,
are going to get onto something else that's
original soundtrack.
yeah, see, this is what I was going to get onto because we then hit the titles. And like you say, if you want nostalgia, these titles are something. So it starts off with just this like orchestral, is that the word I'm looking for? Kind of background. There's some waves and there's just lots of names flashing up. And I know Dan always says if the titles aren't grabbing him, he's gonna skip them. And I was looking at it like, yeah, Dan's skipping this 100%. And it kind of kept on going, and we weren't getting any animation. I
Let's
was a
get
bit like, I wonder
seasick.
what's going on here. This I don't remember this at all. And then we kick into this revamp of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? On a boat. And that was really interesting. That was really good to see. I'd completely forgotten about it. But like you said, like, I didn't realize what a kick of nostalgia this movie tries to do. I always remembered the Hex Girls, but I didn't remember these titles. Like you say, the original outfits again, even though there's some steps kind of modernizing things. It was quite a strong, like, kick of nostalgia. It almost makes me wonder if there was meant to be more behind the scenes of this being like a pivotal moment in Scooby-Doo, like this is going to be revamped in this way and we're going to aim to
Yeah,
do
or
this,
even
and
if a
then it
lot of
just
it was remnants of I don't know if it's a fourth or fifth, like a next Mook animation, because they all started with the theme get like sung by a guest. Like you had Jennifer Love Hewitt for Alien Invaders, Billy Ray Cyrus for Witch's Ghost. I don't know who does it here, but it could be remnants from an old production.
I feel like we've maybe pulled the animation apart a little bit on this one, but
I
I
think
do
that's what
want
I
to
was gonna lead
say
into. There's so much nostalgia bait, and there is a difference of nostalgia bait, and also maybe the people working on this, they grew up loving the original series, so it is just what you love. For instance, if we got hold of the Scooby-Doo franchise one day, we would probably make something a bit like Zombie Island. So again, it could be fun nostalgia, or it could just be memory lane. But I think there's so much harkening back to the original series that maybe the animation style, it was made to be especially flat and especially simplified to harken back to that era, which is all well and good. I just think it makes it in this type of scale just look a bit bland, uninspired.
it could be the Hex Girls that's making me make this comparison, but I'm comparing it to the Witch's Ghost. I don't think it's aged as well as that has. To me, Witch's Ghost, I can watch it and it could have just come out yesterday. I think it is the most wonderful thing in the world. I think the animation's brilliant. And there's something about the colour palette when they're in Oakhaven that when we were watching The Gourmet Ghost, I was like, that's that aged colour palette. I absolutely love it. That's reminding me of this. Whereas I think with this, there was just two massive like juxtapositions. So there was when they were in the outback, you got this original Where Are You color palette. There was lots of darkness to it. It almost looked like a browny kind of gritty sort of brush over everything. And maybe they just wanted that to be reminiscent of the outback. I don't really know. But the moment where they arrive in Australia and the mystery machine's lifted off the ferry, for me, that is a core memory. I remember seeing that scene so clearly, and it is so bright. Like when they're doing that tourist scene, it's the What's New color palette. It is so bright and cheerful and gives you the energy of a What's New episode. But as soon as they go into the outback, it's kind of almost like watercolors. It's not full textured, solid kind of colors. And it doesn't seem like there's a continuity in terms of the movie. It does seem like there's a bit of back and forth. I don't know. That was kind of my thoughts of it. But what do you remember the mystery machine being lifted in? Is it just me that has this like
I do
massive
remember
memory of
it.
seeing it being lifted off the ferry and it was like they brought it with them? I remember being so excited by it.
I do distinctly remember seeing it on like a portable DVD player, but I don't know if that left a big impression on me, that sequence. I just do remember seeing it, so it must have done to an extent, but yeah, I don't
What
know.
about the tourist montage? Did it make you want to visit Australia? Did you like the things they included?
I always want to visit Australia. Australia is like my number one or two place that I want to visit the most. It's just the snakes and the spiders, like I don't know, to be on the same bit of Earth as any of the Minogues, maybe it's worth getting stung by a scorpion, but like, I mean, oh God, I couldn't imagine it. I'd cry. If I just saw a huntsman spider, I would turn white, fall to the floor, and that would be the end of me.
But I think I don't know, like the way that they're traveling and things like that, that as well puts me in the what's new era. So I think that's why I've always made this misconception.
Oh, and we
Probably
also
should be
do
calm and
get
stop talking about
the
what's new.
cyber chase Easter egg here, don't we? Around about this sequence, the tourist. Wait, is this before or after Bondi
This
Beach?
is before Bondi Beach.
Yeah.
Is it after Bondi Beach that they're playing in the back of the mystery machine on the way
Yeah.
to? Yeah, okay. So, Dan, what did you think about this bit where they kind of arrive in Australia? You get that sequence of them going to see the Sydney Opera House and Bondi Beach and all that sort of stuff. Did it make you want to go to Australia? Do you think they set the scene well?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say you're 100% right. I always skip this intro, like the opening titles, always. I remember, so I was like 8 when this first came out, and I think because the intros to like the other films had been so good, I remember being like, why is it just waves coming up? And yeah, no, no, I'll skip it. It's ridiculous. It's the same as the Monster of Mexico ones. Just skip. There's no need. But no, I really like this intro. I seem to remember the three. It starts with them on a boat, and there's the three sort of ghouls that
Yeah,
catch
there's
it.
like 3 villains that kind of take
Yeah,
the
it's like a
place.
shark, a seaweed thing, and I can't remember
Yeah,
the
Is
other
there like a
one.
captain or something? I
yeah.
don't.
There's a
Oh,
captain.
yeah.
I think it's a deliberate nod. At least I think so. There was a Scooby Doo show episode set on a boat where there was 3 people. I'm assuming it was supposed to be a nod to that, but yeah, that was fine. Yes, I always remember the Mystery Machine coming down because I don't know. It sounds so weird. I always have a bit of a bugbear when they bring the Mystery Machine with them because I think why would anyone just lumber around a van and like pay extra costs to bring it? But I do appreciate it when they at least acknowledge it. Like I know there was a Scooby Doo show episode where they make a point of showing the Mystery Machine being like loaded onto the island. So I like that bit. But I always prefer it more. That's why I loved What's New because whenever they went abroad, I think it was only one time they had the Mystery Machine when they went to Russia. But other than that, it showed them using like the transport in the country, which I always thought was a lot more creative. But no, but I think they do set the scene. It does make me want to visit Australia slightly. It is somewhere I do want to go, except like JB said,
Yeah.
it is an island that pretty much wants to kill you. Like I like being able in this country, I can just go for a walk in the woods if I want to. But in Australia, you pretty much you might die.
Worst case here, we'll get a squirrel.
No,
Like,
You
even
know,
I'm put
yeah,
off in this country. Like where I'm
well, I don't think
from,
that's anything to do with the
yeah, like
creatures.
there's adders
imagine,
and stuff where I'm from. Like no.
Yeah, they've
but I
got
mean,
no arms, they've got no legs. You could just bash them on the head and they're out cold.
if in this
Bash
country
them
I
on the
wanted
head.
a dip in the lake, I'd feel safe enough to do that. In Australia, I would not dare. You do not know what's in there, but it does set the scene. It does tempt me, but I'm a massive arachnophobe, so no, I
Mm.
doubt I'll ever get to Australia. But I think it sets the scene well. I love the tourist sequence. Like the Bondi Beach sequence is cute. I like that there's a bit of a Fafney moment where the local men are ogling Daphne, and of course it irritates Fred. So I do like that.
I don't like
But
how it's a
no,
group of like 5 lads by the end of it. It almost
Yeah,
seems a
it's
bit
really
aggressive
strange.
in like 2024 hindsight. But
uh,
she's enjoying it, so power to
yeah,
her.
I think she does like, and if anything happened, Fred was there to sort of put a
Yeah.
I
stop to
like
it.
the beach outfit they give Velma as well. It's much more true to her. Like, if you think about what they did with Camp Scare and that white swimming costume, it's kind of like, look, it's been done so many times beforehand. Even this would have worked.
Yeah, no, I loved that was one thing. I did love the beach wear. It's the same in Monster of Mexico when they show the gang in their pajamas. They get it perfect. The color scheme is right. And like you said, it fits the gang. Like what Daphne wears is something Daphne would wear to the beach. What Velma wears is something Velma would wear. And I like Fred wears like his tank top and stuff. It just makes sense. And the I can't remember what the song is for the tourist sequence, but whenever I watch it, I get it stuck in my head, and I think it's perfect. But I cannot for the life of me. I remember later on, there's gonna go to the rock show.
Yeah,
Is that
see,
later?
it is. That's the scene that we're coming up to now. Like when they're on
Right.
Bondi Beach, they see the advertisement for
Yeah.
Vampire Rock and they decide they're gonna go. And that's like the montage. Gotta go to the rock show.
Yeah.
I was singing that. We rewatched this last night. I was singing that getting ready for work this morning. Like that for me is one of the most almost like addictive Scooby Doo songs. Like it just sticks in your head once it's there.
One day I do just want to have like a fun like vloggy video where we just find somewhere in Blackpool, we all go get sloshed together and like we
You
do, no,
don't
but
drink. We say this a lot, but we
no,
don't
we
drink,
sing
JB.
some of the classic Scooby songs on karaoke, open mic night. That's what I'd love to do. Oh, that would be my dream video to me.
Oh gosh. I mean, I think they set this scene up very well. The only thing is that song, I remember it going on for longer than it does.
I thought it lasted
Like
for ages. It's not in a bad way.
I remember it being a full song. And for me, this is just like a clip of some music that they play multiple times. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I wonder if there's a full version on YouTube or something.
See, I definitely had it in my brain that it was like a full song as opposed to the same few words going over and over and over again.
That
I
being
just thought that because
said,
I didn't know the song that
we
I sang the
didn't
first
stick
few
around
words.
for the credits, did we? So it could have been one of those ones that then replays a full version of in the credits. I
Could
don't
have been.
recall. But yeah, maybe.
No, but I do like this. And this is the sequence where you get all like the weird animals and stuff you get in Australia as well as a bit of a montage on the way to the
Kangaroos, I think an emu or an ostrich.
I like the scene where Shaggy and Scooby are doing the kangaroo race and the little baby kangaroo kicks Scooby out of the pouch. It was kind of funny.
It's dead sweet. I love kangaroos and wallabies. But we don't get a koala bear though, do we?
I don't know. I don't think so.
There's a thing in Australia, I think, called a bush baby. And apparently if it wheezes on you, you get something. Like you get an odd disease. But I'll
Oh.
have to look out for that. Yeah, bush
Okay.
baby.
So, they arrive at Vampire Rock, and as always, Scooby sees the monster first. I think it's pretty much key formula. And then you hear the Hex Girls.
I could not unhear this because I think I watched, maybe this is shameful, maybe not, but I think I watched Monster of Mexico a lot more as a kid than this. And the fact that they used the same snarl for the Yowie Yahoo and the Chupacabra, I just can't unhear it. It just doesn't feel right to me. I don't like it.
But I remember being so excited to see the Hex Girls. And when they turned up, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is good. Are we getting another song from them a bit later on? Because this seems very minimal to me. And we don't. I always thought there was like more original Hex Girls songs in this.
What
that
were
there
they
was
singing?
just...
Was it
I think so.
I'm a Hex Girl, and that was the yeah. I always
No, it was
thought
I'm a Hex Girl.
that
That's
We
one.
Do Voodoo was the one that originated in this one.
Yeah, I did too. I thought there was like,
That was it not?
do you
See,
remember
I'm
seeing
doubting
that?
myself now.
Because I don't.
But I think it's my headcanon that that Getaway song is a Hex Girl song. That's just my. It sounds like them singing it. It's my personal headcanon that that's their theme, like for this movie.
I guess to me, they just weren't in this movie as much as I thought they were. Like, I was so excited that I was about to be watching a Hex Girls movie, and they're not in it that much. And the song that they sing in it's kind of just recycled from Witch's Ghost, and I was so excited to be watching this, and by the end of it, I was like, we really needed Haunted High Rise because that was going to be like fresh Hex Girl songs and stuff. This was, I didn't realize that this was pretty much just recycled content.
I wonder if they would have, because I don't understand if it because it was so recycled. I don't understand why they even bothered race swapping Luna either. That was such a weird choice. Um, like, but then again, though, actually, on that, I think this is one of those occasions where it doesn't really matter because a part of Luna's character, like, it had nothing to do with race, so I guess it's acceptable. And it was what, like 2002, I guess, because they gave us two original black characters. Maybe like the people at the time were like, we've reached our limit. We have to change one of these. But yeah, I do like them. They're good here. But yeah, I would have liked more songs. But then would it have dragged on a bit? Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It seemed like there was a scene missing, like the We Do Voodoo song, right? Like, I'm trying to remember where that's from. Dan, what do you remember of the Hex Girls from this movie?
Yeah, so I do. I so distinctly remember watching this movie for the first time. I remember I think I'd been away somewhere, and when I got home, I think my parents had got me the VHS as like a gift. But yeah, at first I was confused because back like now I can watch any Scooby stuff and I'm like, you know what, the canon is weird, the timelines are weird. But back then I was like, okay, this must take place like before the Zombie Island era because the gang are in the road shut in the road clothes. So when at first I saw Shaggy playing the Cyber Chase game, at first I was like, oh, that's cool. But then I was like, wait, no, that hasn't happened yet. And then obviously the Hex Girls show up. But I remember being so excited for the Hex Girls because obviously this was before I could go online and read spoilers. I got such a shock seeing the Hex Girls. But yeah, like you say, they aren't in it that much. It almost seems like I wouldn't be shocked if like they originally wrote it with just, but then someone was like, "Oh, it's a rock concert. We should throw the Hex Girls in there." So they had to quickly just add a few scenes with them. And it was cool to see them again. I do like how because we're going back to or the ghosts aren't real, but they still wanted to bring the Hex Girls back, and the Hex Girls came from the witch's ghost when they were real. They're very vague about how they know them. It's like, oh, these are our friends from America. Like, there's just no other explanation. They don't say, oh yeah, remember the witch, or they don't even like entertain the fact like that the vampire could be real. Like they could say, oh, it's like Sarah Ravencroft. Like it's like no, they know the Hex Girls, but it doesn't matter how they know them. But no, yeah, I'm always disappointed that we didn't get more original songs, or they just didn't put it as big a part. Like I know they weren't in every scene of the Witch's Ghost, but I felt like they were more involved in the mystery. Whereas I think because like part way through they get kidnapped, so it's a bit disappointing. And I think as well it suffers from the animation because I loved in the Witch's Ghost how their dresses, they were all same black and they had that glimmer of their colour. So Thorn had that glimmer of red and there was a glimmer of green. But in this one they were just like, oh, you're in red, you're in green, and these very boring basic colored dresses. So I think there was a downgrade
Yeah, it's
for
like
the Hex
someone
Girls
tried
for
to
the
make a
animation.
toy for like Primark, and from the Witch's Ghost designs, and this is what they made.
It was like if say there was a coloring book of the Hex Girls, obviously you couldn't do like the cool shade, and so you would just probably just get a bold color and color them in. That's what this animation feels like. But it's always good to see the Hex Girls. They've obviously got their original voices, which is always good. But yeah, it was a bit disappointing and a bit of a downgrade.
I mean, I did just Google it then while you're speaking, and We Do Voodoo was for this movie, but it was that minimal. I genuinely don't even remember
See, it
seeing
is
it.
such a shame because we know that there was a banging song for Haunted High Rise,
It still
but
hurts.
thinking about from Witch's Ghost to that, what would have been, I can't recall any other Hex Girl song that was introduced and was really cool. I know that what Mystery Incorporated had the Trap of Love, but I think that's kind
Mm.
of more of a Daphne song than a Hex Girl song, but it's Hex Girls. Other than that though, it's such a
Much
shame.
more they could have done, like even how they closed the show. You didn't have to just have the gang there. Could have had the Hex Girls there too.
Mm.
Or like, why did the gang even have to win at the end? The Hex Girls were back. They'd been kidnapped. Like, they're still a contestant.
Well, that's not as bad as like when they do, and they've done this several times. I'm not even making a thing of it, where Daphne does like the coolest thing. They travel there because Daphne's good at something, and Daphne saves the day. She does all this cool stuff, and in the end, they give it to the dog. I think they do that twice. Once in Aloha Scooby Doo, and then in Samurai Sword. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah.
It's
All
like
I
the
know
Oscar
is I was
nominations.
watching this because I wanted Hex Girls and I didn't get enough Hex Girls. It just left a hole in my heart where Haunted High Rise is meant to be. From there though, we hear about the legend of Wildwind. And I think that sets it up really nicely for like we said, kind of like the Yowie Yahoo's
Just sounds
minions.
like a stomach condition, doesn't it? What?
What do we all think to the gang's band outfits? I thought that they were really quite good. Bit of an interesting choice to give Velma some purple,
Hmm.
but I quite like what they did with everything.
Nothing against them. They do the job. I like it when they dress the gang a little bit crazy, like when in Monsters Unleashed when you had Shaggy as like Shizzy McCreepy and then SD McCrawley. It's just this is just wacky enough to get the job done. I don't say I love it or hate it either way. It's just yeah, it's a bit different, a bit different. And you said what Velma looked like Elton John. Like
Yeah, I did
just
say
there
that,
was just
yeah.
a lot of interesting stuff going on with the Elton John.
Yeah, I quite like what they do with Fred as well, because obviously I think it's funny how they give Velma a bit of character because she can't walk in heels. So she keeps just falling over, which I think is kind of funny. Yeah, I like what they do. Dan, what do you think to the band outfits?
Yeah, so I loved Daphne and Fred's. I thought they were perfect. I loved that like jacket that Shaggy had on. Um, Obviously, yeah, they tried to go a bit different with Velma. Obviously, it annoys me that it wasn't just like orange and red and stuff, because yes, I'm very particular about that. Although it reminds me a bit, like you say about Velma's like the lead singer and she's having to be on heels and stuff. It's very much like you said about thinking it was what's new. That's very much a what's new joke for me. It reminds me of like
Yeah.
in the other Hex Girls episode when they have to lure the vampire with a bride and Daphne assumes it's going to be
I
her,
love that
Oh yeah,
episode.
you know
but
we had a
then it's
good song in that one, didn't we?
yeah, but then
Hmm.
it has to be Velma. So this
We
reminds me
need to
very
get.
much of a what's new sort of joke.
Hmm.
So and also as well, it reminds me long in the future in Be Cool. don't they do an episode with the music on the theater, and at the end, Velma has to sing.
Oh
She
yeah,
has to
the
sing the
explanation.
explanation. So yeah, it seems consistent for this era. I have a feeling that the writers and the animators, because this was around what's new, sort of had that mindset, but at the same time had to make it the original gang.
I'm
So I
trying to
think there
dig
is a
into my
there's a
mind
mixture.
palace. I think
JayBee, I
the
hate.
only the main
Sorry.
commonality was Christopher Keenan as like executive
Hmm.
producer along with Sander Schwartz, yes, and Joe Sictor on storyboards. So I think there was still quite a lot of them about, but that was before
Yeah.
like your George Doties, your Ed Sherlocks. But yeah, there was definitely some What's New people on there.
What this has proven to me, what Dan was saying there about the episode of the vampire, we need to get to the point where we're reviewing what's new in the reviews. Like, you've actually made me want to like pick back up with a Guess Who ones just to
Yeah,
fight
what
through
if
to get to
someone
it.
that we want to interview and you're rude about the movie again?
Look, I can't help it. I'm honest in the reviews. I'm saying this one's not as good as I thought it was.
But
Um,
it is. I think it's good. It just doesn't
no.
look how a lot of casuals feel about Be Cool Scooby Doo. I feel about this. Like I think I do love the substance. I just. I don't know. It's
They
just
had the
a bit
ingredients of
jarring.
a 10 out of 10, and they somehow took that and made it about a 6 out of 10. And I don't know how you do that. Like, I don't know physically how you go Hex Girls, original song, music concert, and this is the result.
I
I
just think
remember loving
Like
this.
Icarus tried to fly too close to the sun. I just feel like the creative team tried to fly too close to the Where Are You designs and everything. And unless you've got the charm of the hand-drawn animation and even the rudimentary way of how limited things were back then, but they still did amazing stuff with it, you're never gonna capture that now. It's like if they tried to do a William Hartnell style episode of Doctor Who with the budget now, they can probably do it very faithfully, but there's always going to be the uncanniness about it. Like, okay, but because this, camera's a little bit more HD, we can tell that that's cardboard, or we can tell that there's just a bottle screwed on top of that Dalek. I just don't think they were wise to try and pay that much homage to the original series when they had too much modern day convenience that it just ended up looking like they tried to cut corners into like a modern day thing. I don't know. It is weird.
Mm.
It's a choice.
So we then get to the bit where the gang all split up, and we see the Wild vampires with Shaggy and Scooby. And this is, like you say, really pushing on that where are you stuff. So there's all the food tents, like, is it the Charlie the Robot episode I'm thinking of, or am I thinking of the one with the ghost clown? Because you then get the mirrors. It is really pushing on the where are you vibes.
That reminded me more of Cyberchase actually.
Did it?
A bit.
Okay. And then you get that typical Shaggy Scooby interaction as well, where they try and convince the villains that there's something that they're not, and the
Oh
villains of
yeah,
course
like the
suddenly lose their
spaghetti,
IQ
the
and fall for
spaghetti.
it.
Oh, that's okay. This scene is maybe my favorite. I love the song, the Getaway song.
I love that song, but okay, after what you've said, this is clearly the Hex Girl's voice, right?
I don't think it is
So
officially, but it
why
sounds so much
didn't
like it.
they say make it that the Hex Girls are rehearsing so you can see that they're singing this? Make it that Hex Girls original song because it sounds like it is. Like, have them rehearsing and it
Uh,
clips to like them running around or something. I want to see that this was the Hex Girls. I don't want to hear them having to be added in.
See, I was gonna say that would maybe be a bit goofy because it could take away from the threat of the vampires,
They were vampires. Everybody thought the Hex Girls were vampires when they
but I
first saw
think
them.
the fact that we don't get where are the rest of the gang when that's happening? Because I was just
Clue.
thinking maybe
Not the
the
first
sound
clue.
of that song was what made the vampires think that they could attack Shaggy and Scooby because their like cries or screams for help would be muffled by the music. That would have been cool. I just
Yeah.
can't even remember where they were at that point. But
No, I
yeah,
know that
that's
Shaggy and
cool.
Scooby were running around the tents. Don't have a clue where the other three were in the person that I say reminds me of Del Chilman's caravan.
Oh, Jasper.
That
I don't
one.
think he's like Del Chilton. The Jasper, I love
Just that,
Jasper
like,
though
wacky
so
eccentric
much.
character. Like,
Like I'm sure I had a school teacher like Jasper. Like he's just that perfect like mixture between eccentric and just so slimy. But
yeah.
I don't know who voices it. I think it may be Jeff Bennett. I could be wrong. But just everything about the performance, the look. I don't know what it is, but if we're gonna get a spin-off of any character from this era, if you can call Montreal Mexico, I just want a Jasper spin-off of him trying to recruit the pussy. No, what am I gonna say?
Pussycat Dolls, like he's recruiting
No, I was
music.
gonna say Josie and the Pussycat Dolls, but I nearly unironically said the Pussy Patrol. But yeah, the Pussycat Doll, like Mystery Inc., like just the Hex Girls, like all the bands that we've ever seen. I just want this guy to have his like greasy spin-off. I think that'd be great.
I can't say I have any love for the character. Dan, what about you? Did you like Jasper and some of the other extra characters they set up here?
Yeah, so first of all, like I think the sequence where they're chased by the vampires and the whole spaghetti joke and everything, that is probably one of my favorite sequences of the film. I love the song, I love the classicness of it. I do agree that I think that's quite interesting that maybe it should have been more explicitly a Hex Girl song. But no, in terms of the other characters, oh, first of all, I'm the exact opposite. I absolutely despise Jasper. He is,
Yeah, he
oh
makes me feel a
no.
bit sick. I don't like him. He makes me feel uncomfortable.
I've never liked him from the first time I watched this film. I hate his design. I hate the way he looks. I don't know why his lips are so prominent. Just everything about. I hate the voice. The slimy, nasally voice.
Groovy. I don't know.
Yeah. Again, is he
He
just supposed to
reminds.
be?
No, I can't say that.
Oh, no,
What?
say it. Reveal
No, no, I'm
yourself.
good.
Reveal
I say,
yourself.
I don't know if like because you say it's like very hippie-ish and everything. Is he just? Is it because Scooby premiered in the '60s? Maybe he's meant to be a throwback to that. But no, if I never see Jasper in anything related to Scooby again, I'm fine with that. The other characters I much prefer. I love the character of Daniel, not just because obviously we share a name, but and his granddad. I loved. I think, am I getting right? Dan and his granddad were the indigenous people.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that says in Australia and they included the Aborigines. Except I think the Scooby writers just sort of like the smoke signal. I'm pretty sure that's I think that's more of a Native American thing. I think the mix up, but it was they attempted. It was nice to include
Yeah,
them. I
they
much prefer
tried.
those. And the other one that isn't Daniel, the blonde guy, I much prefer those as characters. I'd much rather have more Hex girls than any Jasper. Like they could have just wrote Jasper out of this entirely, and I'd have been fine with that.
Okay, what I was gonna say about Jasper, because I will say it. The voice that you were doing to mimic it was so perfect, but JB used to bully his dad a little bit because his dad is about 70 something. And whenever he saw a girl that was blonde and around the age of 22, he used to ask her what she was studying in that voice. So when you did that, it just really made me laugh. Can you see what I was reading?
Yeah, a little bit skeevy. You'd definitely be trying to recruit the
It
pussy.
sounded like your impersonation of your dad. It was really funny.
Almost like Austin Powers, like you could almost see him going like Shagadelic, baby.
Yes.
Oh yeah, like
Yes, Austin Powers. That is exactly what it sounds like. Yes.
Oh
Oh.
gosh.
Jesus. That was such a, you know what? I want to try and interview the voice of Jasper, and I want them to do the
Great
Jasper
idea.
voice on the Zoom, and that'll be interview 150, a great
I am not.
finale.
I am not doing the interview because no, that would freak me out.
No,
No.
it's one of the things that kind of makes your skin crawl. It just, no,
Yeah.
no,
It's
don't like
oh.
it. Okay, so we're then introduced to another music act, the two skinny dudes.
Oh yeah.
Didn't think much of them. They were there. They were
They
characters.
were there, they were dudes, they were skinny, you know.
The Hex girls then get kidnapped. And that's like, I remember that being more high stakes, like, oh my gosh, no, it's the Hex girls. And kind of like a bit indifferent to it this time. I don't know. I feel like this movie just wasn't what
Well, I will say,
thought it
I did
was.
like the, if not how it looked, I think the concept of it. Like, what is it? I think they get abducted via what looks to be like tendrils coming out of the Yahoo, and I did like that imagery a lot. Like, for all I don't like the execution necessarily, just the idea that it's almost, I don't know, just this is such a different type of vampire that I really do like its like move set. I kind of wish maybe it was a bit more defined because at this point you could almost accuse it of being able to do just whatever the writers need it to be able to do. But still, I did like how that whole thing happened and with the three wild wind vampires flying around it like it was part of that tornado. Oh, Yeah, I do like it. I like it a lot.
I like it too. I guess there's parts of it that there's a bit that I'm going to come on to that I think it makes this movie kind of a standout in a certain way. So they then obviously the Hex Girls have gone missing, and suddenly that's a step too far. They need to go and investigate this much more thoroughly and go and explore Vampire Rock, which is a really interesting setting in itself. But the bit that I like here is instead of having Velma pluck out information from the sky that we're all meant to know, they start to build up to the unmasking. So they have things like when the sun comes up, the vampires need to go away. And it almost like they believe it's real. And then when one does, they're like, oh, but these three haven't. Suddenly, maybe it's not real. And like, I like how they have that progression going from being terrified of it to going, oh, it's okay, it's a mask, we can just take it off. I feel like this is something this movie does better than any other, is that progression to this is a real monster. Actually, we can unmask this thing. And that's something I really like. JayBee, do you like how that did you notice or pick up on with that scene where they're exploring Vampire Rock, that kind of progression where there's certain things where if a light shines and then all of a sudden maybe it's something that can be unmasked?
I think it would have been better. But at the same time, it's one of those ones that I've got a lot of nostalgia just because I know the plot line so much that it's something that I guess we don't really have the luxury of picking apart in the same way like that we could have first time watching Trick or Treat or Crypto 2. Because I like the ideas, but at the same time I'm like, oh, but would that, extend the runtime too much? Would that interfere with this? But I like the idea because I think ultimately Velma as the one who is almost actually the audience surrogate in many ways. Like for women to relate to Shaggy and Scooby more, if she's the one that's going to be finding the clues, then we're going to be on the same page as her. So it is frustrating when she just goes, "Ah, I knew all along, and I just didn't say anything because I'm Velma."
I think Velma, not Velma, Daphne's got more of an integral role here. I think, isn't it her that points it out, like, oh, they can't follow us because they can't cross water and they can't do this because it's sunny. And then they start to do all these things. I think it's Daphne that we go on that journey with a little bit more, as opposed to it just being Velma going, oh, of course, and explaining that somebody's great uncle inherited Vampire Rock and yeah, no. Dan, do you remember kind of, I don't know, maybe the first time you saw this or even kind of now, what your thoughts are on that scene where they're running around Vampire Rock looking for the Hex Girls, but also the progression of how they take it from this is this gigantic monster to they can't follow us, that one's disappeared, we're left with these three, maybe we can unmask them.
Yeah, first of all, I know you briefly mentioned the two skinny dudes.
Yeah.
I hate them. They didn't get
Yeah,
the
me
much
too.
after. Absolutely, like, oh, they're just saying that they're from a different cartoon. Like, no, can't necessarily remember. I remember the first half of the film when I first ever watched it. I can't necessarily remember this part of the film too much or what I thought. I did like the fact that the Hex Girls get kidnapped. I thought that added stakes to the story, as much as obviously it meant they were out of the story. It added stakes. I thought it was cool the way the bands are kidnapped, but I don't think that was ever explained. Like how, because wasn't it a projection as the Yahoo? So I don't understand where the strings came from to pluck them out. But I don't know. Maybe that was a reference. I'm going to be very generous and say that was a nod to Where Are You, where sometimes it wasn't explained.
I think
But
it's explained that they were rock climbers.
where were
The
the strings? Well, how come the strings coming down from the hologram?
not a clue where the strings came from. I'm assuming it's something to do with, I think you see a bag at the end with all their ropes in and stuff. So I
Uh,
think it was meant to be those ropes that were used, but how they were like flashing up, they were like vivid yellow as opposed to like a string color. I don't have a clue.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm going to be generous and say it was a deliberate nod, but no, I did like that because it is a bugbear for me. I know when you mentioned the whole, a lot of the times in old Scooby and new Scooby and any era of films where stuff happens, where like the progression happens sort of off screen, where Velma will be like, "Oh well, I knew this," and she suddenly rattles off stuff, and I'm like, "But why wouldn't you tell the gang?" Like it always just, I hated the fact that Fred, Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby are just left in the dark. And then she's like, oh, well, actually, I noticed that the mask slipped earlier. Or I noticed that there was a reflection in the mirror when there was supposed to be a vampire. Like why didn't you bring that up earlier? So that's why I did like it in this film where they're sort of like, oh, they can't do this, they can't do that. And then it gradually, like, we go with the gang. And again, it's not just Velma, it's the whole gang who are realizing it. So no, I do appreciate that about this film. I think more Scooby stuff should do that because it gets so irritating when, like, there's an unmasking and it's supposed to be a shock, and Velma's like, well, I knew that. I figured that out. And I'm like, but how? Come on. But yeah, so no, I did like this part of the film. I thought it was really well executed.
I do also like the unmasking and who it is, because with there been 3 villains,
I don't like I don't like the human unmasking because I've never liked that. That's just so weird. That it's just so odd.
I think when they unmask the 3, you always think if there's 3 of them, it's gonna be 3 that are gonna be, so your mind instantly springs to the first group of 3 that was kidnapped, or at least did for me. I was assuming it was gonna be them. Even more the Hex Girls than who it actually was, because it was a group of 2 plus an additional one. I kind of like how they did that, because I do think it threw you off a little bit, but also to have that double unmasking of, oh yeah, you couldn't re-enter the contest, so they were going to do this and turn up as Wild Wind at the end. So I don't know, it was an unmasking that I was really quite fond of. JayBee, you claimed to say that it wasn't for you, although Daphne did have a big part, which is normally a plus sign for you. She comes in with the makeup, and
it's just when we're meant to believe the type of situations that the way that they can disguise themselves. It reminds me of that section at the end of Looney Tunes Back in Action where there's like a zip on the head and they can literally change shape, size, whatever. Except there they kind of play that for jokes, whereas sometimes in Scooby you get that level of absurdity, but we're meant to like accept it as serious. Like it is what it is, but it just always reminds me of how goofy that sequence was. It's just so funny.
Dan, do you remember what you thought to the unmasking in this one?
Yeah, so like I think it's really cool, like the reveal, like you say, it's like 2 characters and another one that are seemingly unrelated. So it's like, oh, but I always liked him, so it was a shame that he was sort of in on it. But yeah, I thought that bit was good. I did like the fact that Daphne sort of did our makeup thing, as unrealistic as it is. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of when it's like a human mask. Like the bit where it shows the flashback and they're just putting on these masks and it just slots perfectly into place. I was just like, oh God. And the plan itself just seems so convoluted, and it always makes me think, like, so when they were supposedly disappeared, they were dead, like, don't these people have families and friends? Like, were these people grieving for them and they're just hatching this ridiculous vampire plot? It's like, why? And like, wasn't it just because they were humiliated or something? So they had to stage this. And I'm like, you know what? Celebrities go through bad stuff all the time. You just reinvent yourself. You don't just pretend to be dead and kidnap other bands. And as well, like when they're kidnapping the bands, I forget, where did they put them? Just somewhere in the
They
desert?
didn't want to like kill them because
No.
it's like child friendly, so they paid for them to go on a holiday.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
paid for them
yeah,
to go
exactly.
diving at, like, where was it? Like one of the reefs or
Like
something.
horror,
Yeah, but
Great Barrier Reef
Yeah,
or
the Great
something.
yeah, but
Barrier Reef.
The Hex Girls didn't do it, so didn't they just abandon them?
They'd put their foot down. The Hex Girls are like, no, 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 we want to go back. So they left them in the middle of the outback, I think they said.
Which is so dangerous. That's a death. That is a death sentence. If you leave
Yeah.
3 people without water in the outback, good job they didn't die.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's a strange one. It is. It's not in the slightest what I remembered this movie to be. So I guess JayBee, as always, we do start with you. For you, is this movie a smash or a pass?
It's just such I don't know what way to go with this because I think to myself, this is like going to a restaurant that gives you the best food, except it's the worst possible location. The waiters treat you like trash. You can't get a plate with it, so you literally have to eat off the floor. It's lovely food, but you're in an awful location and you have to scoop it up from what's most likely rotted, vermin infested floors that haven't been cleaned in like 35 years. So it's kind of like, would I have that food again? 1 billion%. I just don't really want to go there for it. Because there's so many elements of this that I love. There's a lot to love, I think, in terms of original songs, apart from some of the intros that we're going to get later on. I think it's some of the best that the franchise has ever had to offer. Even just story wise, I don't mind it. The Yahoo Yahoo concept and design, I absolutely love. It's just, I just think it gets so close to being great, but then there's like one step forward, three steps back. So, oh, I think this one does get a smash, but I think if it was released today, and if I didn't have the nostalgia for it, I could definitely see it being a pass. But I think it just scrapes through on nostalgia and just it's a bit of a cozy feel good one as well. But yeah.
Mm.
What about you, Millie? Would you smash or pass?
I actually think that's the best you've ever summarized the movie when we've reviewed it. Like, I completely agree with everything you've said. It is the perfect ingredients, but the chef doesn't have a clue how to cook. Like, the Hex Girls, a Battle of the Bands style setup, some incredible original music, almost edging into that what's new era with all the traveling, things like that. Like I say, how they like kind of deduct things at the end. Again, brilliant, but there's just something in the background that doesn't make it tick the way it should. Like you said, it's you want those ingredients, you just don't want them from that chef.
Faulty Towers.
And so, for example, if I want the Hex Girls, I want the chef that did Witch's Ghost or the one that did Haunted High Rise. I don't want the one that did this movie. And the animation, I think's maybe a key reason behind it. And I think there's some writing behind it as well that just doesn't quite bring these ingredients together in the right way. But it survives on nostalgia. There's enough here that you can't let this one go in the pile that you're never going to watch again because it's the Hex Girls. It's great original music that you just can't forget. It's a remake of the Where Are You titles as well. There's just so many boxes that it'd feel criminal to put it in the past pile that you're never going to watch again and that you think shouldn't ever have been created because there's just some really good fundamentals here. This was the first return of the Hex Girls, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So it paved the way for doing it multiple times. It's perhaps where the idea of bringing them back for Haunted High Rise stems from, as well as the What's New feature and Guess Who feature and all that sort of stuff as well. So it's pivotal. You can't ever say this is a smash and you'd never pass and you'd never watch it again because it's not. It's just it survives on nostalgia. My nostalgia for this movie was here, and where this movie actually is about here. And so it's a pass, but it's not quite what I remembered it to be. Dan, what about you?
Oh, okay, so I've got a lot of thoughts on this film, but I'm so glad we're on the same page. Yeah, like I remember watching this for the first time, so I was like 8 years old, and I remember being disappointed. I remember, I think, just coming off the back of those four films, like Zombie Island, Witch's Ghost, Alien Cyber Chase, and just loving each one of them. This just seemed like such a step back. I think, like you said earlier, like it has the elements to be good. Like I can't help but compare this to Monster of Mexico. Just like obviously you compare the What's New films together, you compare the 2010s films. This and Monster of Mexico are like companion pieces. But if you told me the plot and the elements to this and the plot and the elements to Monster of Mexico, I'd have said, oh, well, obviously Legend of the Vampire is going to be better. It just has to be. But I think they executed Monster of Mexico better because they weren't forced in that they weren't like bringing back legacy characters. They weren't deliberately trying to nostalgia bait too much. I think with this one, they had the ingredients there. I think if you tinker with this film a bit, it could be perfect. Like there could be this really excellent film in there. And I do appreciate, I love the fact that they brought back, obviously Frank Welker was still there, Casey Kasem, they brought back, I think, because obviously he didn't come back for the four films. I think getting him back was good, getting Nicole, I can never pronounce her surname, Nicole Jaffe. There is one bugbear that I've always felt. I know, I mean, she's not the OG Daphne, but she's like the main old school Daphne is Heather North. I remember watching this for the first time and thinking, well, who is that imposter? That is not Daphne. I couldn't get over the voice. I've got used to it
Yeah.
now. I could not believe it when I found out that actually was an old school Daphne. But I did see a few years back now, apparently when they were making Zombie Island, there is a picture of Heather North recording the voice. They brought her back for one day before replacing her with Mary Kay Bergman. And that was the right decision because she obviously her voice had changed too much to do Daphne. And as much as it's nice to have an old Daphne back, it sticks out like a sore thumb for me. It's not as bad as Marla Frumpkin as Velma. Nothing will ever be as bad as that. But Daphne's voice in this and Monster of Mexico takes me right out.
Yeah, I've
But the
always
See,
said that, but you can't really say it without sounding, because
I know
obviously
it
she
sounds
was going
harsh.
through it, but yeah, like I think, and I don't know if we'd feel the same about Casey Kasem if we did have that break. I mean, obviously, like you say, we had Scott Innes, we had Billy West in the Mook animation, but because also I grew up watching What's New Scooby Doo, Casey Kasem sounding older was pretty much the status quo for me. Um, Whereas, Mary Kay Bergman or them Heaven Off just kind of got thrown into, we've got young Daphne and now she's aged voice wise and stuff, and it's just it's lovely. But I wish that they would have done something like they did with Casey Kasem and Mystery Incorporated, where they should definitely bring Heaven Off back. Just have her be a character. Like, I don't know who you get here. Even just throw in a scene instead of like Daphne getting like surrounded by the hunky men in Australia, she could just have some small interaction with someone passing on the beach. That's Heaven Off saying like, "Oh, sorry about that." Like just something like that. That would have been a bit more legacy centric. But yeah.
like you say, it's horrible to say, but Daphne in this one almost stood out as like the Kate McCutcheon of Daphne's. Like there was some things that she was doing where the pitch didn't match the rest of the scene, almost like they'd not recorded it together.
It's the laugh
And
for me
she's
as
not got
well.
the notification of this is the pitch,
Mm.
this is the tone. Some of it was a bit jarring, and it sounded like a singular, like a line delivered singularly, not as part of a dialogue. And I'm pretty sure, given when this was done, they'd have been in the same room, which kind of makes it a bit weird.
Mm.
But it's almost like if you were given a line to say, but you weren't saying it in a conversation. It sounded like it was an acted line as opposed to a dialogue.
That's what I think plagues this movie so much. And I actually agree with Dan. Like it was gonna be like my hot take of the video that I do kind of feel like Monster of Mexico flows a little bit cleaner in some areas. But I just think with this one, it's trying so much to live in the past that it doesn't even want to acknowledge ways that it could have been improved. And I just think that's the issue. Like it is a curse of its. I don't know if it's a creative that was behind this. That was like, oh, I love Where Are You, so I can't change anything about it. I'm not too sure,
Well, I think, and I
but
could be wrong here, weren't we always told that with Zombie Island, they'd given up on Scooby? They passed it to the creatives and went, here, go and have a ball, have fun, do what you want to do. And I think that was kind of what part of that four collection was like creatives been allowed to have fun. I'm wondering if this is where upper management began to step back in again.
maybe. But then we had the What's New era, which for all
That
isn't.
was incredible.
Maybe you can say that some of them aren't on the level as the Mook animation ones, but they definitely weren't like, oh, let's get the original songs back, let's get the original people back. Like, it wasn't afraid to move forward with like, I mean, I don't know how it works timeline wise, but Grey Delisle or different soundtracks. Like it was just different.
Maybe this is the reason why. Like maybe this movie and Monster of Mexico were harshly critiqued. I know I've got some pretty strong criticisms for Monster of Mexico that we'll probably go into at a different time. And it's clear from this that all three of us have some quite strong criticisms for this one as well.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I definitely do. I don't want to say that I was hating on this film, but yeah, like I said, that the Daphne voice. I know the same thing is I never noticed Shaggy's voice when I was younger, but now look when I rewatch the What's New era in this, it is obvious. It is obvious that it's an old man voice in Shaggy. But at the time it didn't stand out like Daphne's did. Daphne's really stuck out. I really wish. I know she probably didn't want to do it. To my knowledge, she hasn't acknowledged the franchise since 1970. But if they could have got the OG Christiana, I think no, Steffiana Christopherson back as Daphne, that would have been like they could have
Mhm.
given Heather like you said, JB, give Heather a sort of a cameo, but got the actual first
Yeah.
Daphne back. But like I say, maybe they did reach out and she just said no. But that would have been nice. But no, and I do have a lot of things in this film where, like I say, I don't think it lived up to expectations. But it is one that over time, and I think nostalgia, I do like it a lot more now. And like I say, it has the Hex Girls in. It had some really good music. The music in this film, like over the montages, is fantastic. Um, Not biggest fan of the conclusion. I do find it rather silly, but I don't think I could pass this. Like you say, it is a Hex Girls film. It probably did pave the way for bringing them back. Like it was probably like a tester. Like they wanted to go back to the monsters of guys in masks. Can we really bring back these popular characters that originated in one of the real life monster films? So this was maybe like a tester where they could just throw the Hex Girls in, just say, "Oh yeah, these are people we know," and so that did open the floodgates to bring them back later on. And I just think, yeah, it's Scooby. It's them going abroad. That's always fun. And yeah, I think for what it is, and because it does bring back the original voice cast, it gets a smash, but a very light smash. I don't think you could ever pass this. I do think this is something Scooby fans should watch, but you should go in knowing that all the ingredients don't exactly go together, but you'll probably have fun.
Oh, and this is probably nitpicking as well. Maybe I don't know if they do like a tribute, but I think it would have been nice for us to get a Don Messick Easter egg at somewhere in
Hmm.
these, just because I guess they were the only one apart from the Christopherson that couldn't return or like something like that. That would have been nice, but yeah,
Yeah, I
it's an
mean, they
interesting one.
did in Scoob, didn't they reuse the Don Messick's um Space Kook laugh? Didn't they get permission to
Oh
reuse that?
yeah,
So I'm sure if they'd asked,
and
like
we
his
had
family would have
Messick
given,
Mountain.
yeah, they would have given permission
And the
to
Takamoto Ball.
make it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Scoob did some nice things.
But yeah, but I mean, but again, if it's just more nostalgia bit, would be complaining if they just kept throwing nostalgia stuff at us for these films.
That's true.
Well, see, I've got no problem with nostalgia. Like, I understand people saying that Trick or Treat have like relied on nostalgia, but it's where it starts to live in nostalgia. It's to me the difference between like a no, just a cameo of a legacy character, and then say like in the new Spider-Man, or I guess it's not really that new anymore. That is nostalgia, but it drives it forward thematically. Like, so I don't know. Like, I do like this one. I'm definitely gonna watch it again. It's just. I think it would be a lot more frustrating if I could tell that it was more of a studio thing, like with, Return, like say Curse of the 13th Ghost, where I can tell that they were going for a little bit more, but the studio was pushing back. Whereas this, I
Mhm.
can tell that it's some creative's love letter to that original series. It just seems to be too stuck in that. So yeah, it is
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, I've enjoyed talking about it, that's for sure. Have you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I like that. So, I suppose that wraps up this
You
video.
need to choose the movie for next week. We've all chosen one, you
Mm.
haven't.
Me?
Mm.
Oh God. I think I've decided, and you can't goad me into changing my
Oh
mind.
god.
I think I settled for Alien Invaders
Oh,
You did, yeah, I remember
because I
that
love
now.
aliens and I love invaders. So, yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
And then I think we said we're going to put all the ones left into a ball and kind of randomize it,
Or we
which I
could
think would
just
oh,
be
stop
fun.
after Alien Invaders, like, because
Mm,
I'm getting older, I'm getting
oh,
older.
you're not as old as me. I enjoy these reviews.
they're fun. They're really fun. It's good to catch up with everyone as well. Otherwise, like, I don't know, I feel like I have work and then I come home and then I'd be like
Yeah.
just sat there. Like it's good to
Not
like
charming.
yeah, it's good to
You're,
like force me to like, I don't know, like
it's,
still have some energy left after work,
you're quite the
speak to
charmer.
people, socialize. Otherwise, I don't know, like, but for an interview, we'd get to like 2 weeks without speaking and it'd be like, oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing my karaoke in Blackpool later, isn't it?
No.
Like we'll do that, and we'll end up doing like a hangover thing where we'll wake up the next day in like Bangkok, and it'll be great, it'll be great.
Other
So,
than like, I don't know, women on their hendy that are kind of 30 plus. I don't know anybody that wants to do karaoke in Blackpool.
well, no, but the Scooby karaoke, it'll be good, it'll be good, it'll be good. So that does conclude it. In terms of community news, we spoke about the hoodie last time. This one, I suppose, is going to be just what we're doing here, and that's interview 125. Again, it's very different to like interview 100 or interview 75, where I kind of knew that milestone was coming up. Because like, who celebrates 125? I don't know anyone that does.
Apparently
So
we do.
I just thought it was good. I'd just do a different thing for 125, but hopefully the next big one will be. Well, hopefully there'll be a few more, but there'll be a happy one in 150. But yeah, keep up for stuff. There should be a trailer that's gone out what time is it? What time's 19? That's 7:40.
7.
Oh, so it should have gone out like 40 minutes ago. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone for watching. Dan, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at danfaz94.
Hey, thank you. That'll be in the description down below. Thank you so much to everyone for watching. If you do want to see more reviews from us, then please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.